guys, what's up? It's Eli, and I'm here with Anya in this beautiful part of Alexandria, Virginia, at a Jones Point Park. And we're out here. I've been doing a seminar this weekend, and I was fortunate to have Anya come with me, and we've been doing some training and everything else. Whenever we get together, sometimes I like to pick her brain because I've come up from a jiu-jitsu background with pretty similar things over the years. I try to evolve whenever I see like a little tweak or a little detail that I think is going to help to enhance the technique. But it has to go through kind of a process. It has to go through a filter, because it's really easy sometimes, I think, for people to get in the habit of finding something shiny and new and thinking it's better just because it's shiny and new. And then the shiny and new can wear off sometimes, and you find out that maybe the old way was even better. So the way this filtration process kind of has to happen is it's kind of a manner of exploration. The exploration happens like this whenever I'm like, because Anya has a little bit of a different background. Even though she trains jiu-jitsu, she comes up from a background that has lots of different mixtures of like Krav and kickboxing and everything else in it. And I've tried to explore as much as possible over the years too. So I think that by identifying kind of, well, what's going to work, what doesn't work, what's silly, what's good, is just taking a singular technique, seeing how she does some things, how I do some things from what I've learned, and then the cross comparison, the mechanics that are similar, and the principles under which they work. So to give you kind of a tangible form of this, I'm going to look at, I thought we could like explore bear hugs, right? A bear hug is a good self-defense move. It's a self-defense situation that's common, that can happen. It's practical, and there's some similarities and some differences of what we've seen that is, I think, ridiculous versus what we've seen that we feel like works. So to look at first, if I grab Anya, which I'm so fond of doing, if I grab her under the arms. So the way we can break these up in is front, over the arms or under the arms, back, over the arms or under the arms. So whenever I grab her from the front here like this, then the way that she has learned and has taught and has done this over the years is this way here. She makes a distance here, gets her head in there. That sucks real bad here. Tell me what you're doing. I'm going to bastardize this if I explain it.
So, okay, so what I do is I look to put a lot of pressure here at his, just above his elbows, and I'm going to use all of my 120 pounds and get as heavy as I can on this, looking to break this grip in the back. From there, I want to make sure I dig my head in, fill this space, and I'm going to look to arm drag and pass this arm over. From there, I look to get outside, whatever it is. The big thing with this is I need to really get explosive with this. If I just kind of like hang on my weight, like it's not, I'm just gonna get my back cracked. So from here, I just need to get heavy, get my hips away, and get outside.
Okay, so that's not what I do, but I like it a lot. And there's certain things about it that, because I've learned certain things over the years, and I have preferences about some of these things. And in a second, I want us to kind of explore some things that I think we both kind of agree that are pretty ridiculous that I've seen other self-defense people show. Ours, of course, this looks a little different because she's 120 pounds and I'm not. The thing that I want to try to do is similar. I want to kind of drop my base. I want to get sideways, and so what I want to look to do is I want to slide this one back on a rail. I want to sink into this base here like this, so it's a little more awkward for her to be able to hold, squeeze, or pick me up if she was going to do that. From here, I want to make a wedge. I need this arm here, my front arm, and my back arm. I want my front arm to wedge against her face. There's not a lot of space there, so I'm going to take this hand, I'm going to smash it into her face to make some space right there, enough for me to get this inside. The big thing I don't want is to lean back to try to do this because she'll fold me in half the wrong way. So I push away, I make this frame right here, and I'm going to reinforce it by grabbing my wrist like this, and I want at the same time to push my hips and butt away from my wrist on this side, like that, until I feel her grip loosen or pop. I want to maintain this frame while I start to throw some knees, and then I can start to strike back out of this, re-engage or disengage, and I think that's a common kind of termination point where we end the technique, because what happens next is kind of dependent on what the person does in reaction or in response to that. So different kind of techniques. I think hers is extremely effective. I think mine can be extremely effective. One might feel better and different for somebody her size and stature versus someone my size and stature, depending on the person who's attacking us, if they're more common sizes. Let's talk about a couple of bullshit things for a second, like that I've seen from here. There's groin strikes, eye gouges, biting, scratching, hair pulling, all these kind of things like this. They can work. They can absolutely work. But there's some problems and there's some issues with them. There's always an issue whenever you think that just this one single thing is going to be a fight ender. Whenever you see a video that says fight ender in however many seconds, I'm not going to say it's bullshit across the board, but just, you know, be skeptical and be critical whenever you watch these kind of things, because a lot of times it's clickbait. We're probably going to title this video that. So whenever she's grabbing here like this, if I think that I can get here and just gouge her eye, it can absolutely work. It can. Now, the percentage of it working, I don't know, because she's got a little small hole in the eye like this, and it might actually make things worse if I try to do that, right? If I try, if I'm a little bigger than she is here, if she's gonna bite me from here, okay, that could work. It might hurt, and it might freak me out, and then I might want to disengage. She might also get hepatitis because she doesn't know who I am. So that's a problem with biting across the board. Pressure points. I've seen everything from, like, I'm gonna grab here a flank of her skin and squeeze. Now, if we do this in training, she's damn sure gonna let go. If we do this in real life, she may not even feel this if she's an attacker and she's hyped up on adrenaline or some other kind of drug like that. Pulling the ear, pulling the hair, anything like this, you gotta take in mind, like, keep in mind, if I do that to somebody her size, it's probably gonna be pretty effective. But if my martial art is contingent on me training for somebody 70 pounds smaller to attack me, that's a very flawed way of training. That's a very flawed methodology. So I don't want to necessarily count on things like that. My techniques always need to be able to work on somebody my physical superior. If your techniques can't mechanically work on somebody your physical superior, it's going to be a difficult thing whenever you try to apply that to a real situation under duress. So that's an issue. Let's look at another kind of thing where there's some good techniques maybe. If I go over her arms, obviously, if I go over her arms, her reaction is going to be very different because she's not going to be able to hang her weight the same way any longer. So I grab here like this. Now, I can already feel what's going on, so go ahead and talk us through this, Anya.
Okay, so from here, what I'm going to do is, he's got my arms underneath. Again, I'm going to look to try and get my head in this space, to try and control this space. Then my hands, because they're free, I could throw strikes, all that, but ideally, I want to get my hips as far away as I can, because that's going to be his control point for me. So I'm going to take my hands to his hips, and I'm going to do kind of the same concept. I'm going to push on his hips while I push away. And I may not break his grip, but I've loosened it enough that I can look to either duck under and get outside, or if I'm here, I can then continue to throw strikes, whatever it may be, until I can get into a different position.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and this one's very similar to the one that I've learned lots of different ways, and the way that I teach it these days too. I always want to make the disclaimer that a lot of these things, we've learned these at some time. We didn't just like sit around one day and think up, hey, this might work, and we're going to teach it forever to everybody else. We do a lot of investigation, and we're always very open to evolving as much as possible as martial artists and as teachers, as self-defense people. So if she grabs me over the arms here like this, which again, this is kind of silly because she's so much smaller than I am, but from here, what I want to look to do is I'm going to do kind of the same thing. Now, depending on where her head is, I might not be able to get my head inside, but I do want to at least try to get my hips here, or my hands here rather, in front of her hips like that, and I want to push my butt back as well. So that's somewhere we're very similar. So I'm hiking my hips and we're trying to create that space. Her power in this position is going to come from her getting her hips close to me, and that's where she's going to be able to squeeze and pick me up if she's larger than I am. So I'm going to pop my hips back like this here, and at this point here, I want to start to move around to her side. So I'm hiking this side up here, and I'm keeping my hand on her hip, and I'm reaching over here toward her back. Once I can get my hand toward the small of her back like this, I'm hiking my elbow up here this way to be able to get off to the side. At this point here, it's very similar to what she was saying a while ago. I want to try to gather up the arms, or I want to try to at least duck out and get past behind her so I can either disengage or re-engage in a better position. So that one I think we have a lot of common ground on, as well as the first one, but some little slight differences. But that's where it's really cool, because whenever I started to talk to her and talk to people in different fields of martial arts that I've developed close relationships with, different relationship than we have, but I start to notice little mechanical differences that I'm like, hey, I like that detail, and I'm going to absorb that and use it and see if it works into the framework of mine, or if I need to revamp something totally, right? So let's look at a bear hug from behind, right? Same concept, bear hug from under the arms from behind. What will you do?
So a couple different things we can do. What I need to address is this grip, but ideally I'd like to look to automatically drop my hips to look to kind of start to break this grip. So I like to go for the hand that's on top, and I'm going to put all of my pressure here to work to break that grip. If I break it right away, that's great. From here, I'm just going to kind of work again to get outside or run away, whatever it may be. The other option that's from here is I can immediately throw strikes. So if I'm here and I freeze whatever it is, I'm like, what do? I've got elbows, especially my nice bony elbows. I just sit here and I'm throwing them back and forth, trying to get this grip to break. If it doesn't break, at the very least, it's now taking his attention to the fact he's getting elbowed in the face. And again, I can go 2-on-1 to this and work to break. I get my hips down. I'm not, though, doing this, because if he lets go, I'm just gonna fall on my ass, okay? So here, I learn to drop my hips, get pressure, 2-on-1 here, get outside, do whatever I need to do from there.
And what's the difference if I go over the arms?
So if it's over the arms, it's still the same concept. I want to look to drop my base. I'm going to look to throw strikes, whatever that may be, just enough to give myself space to get outside. I may go back to this, get this, duck under, whatever it may be.
I think some similarities in what we're looking at for as far as these strikes go. Strikes, if they can cause pain and the pain has any kind of response, then okay, cool. But I think pain is extremely unreliable. Pain does matter, it is a factor, but in a hyped up situation where there's a lot of stress and you're adrenalized, then the pain is going to be really mitigated by that. So you're not going to feel it as much. It's not going to have the response it's going to have in training a lot of the time, where I might get hurt and be like, oh man, I think that would stop the fight. It's too hard to predict and it's too hard to tell. Now, what is a little bit easier to tell from strikes sometimes is the mechanical advantage that it might get you, or the distraction method. So from the Jiu-Jitsu paradigm, typically strikes, there are strikes in different situations that are for causing damage, but primarily a lot of the time it's to cause distraction. So whenever we're looking at something like this, if she's grabbing a hold of me, and yeah, if I can, a lot of times the striking that we'll look at, if I can feel that her head's behind me, then I can headbutt back. It's obviously not there right now, but I would like, I like to do the exact same thing that she's talking about, as far as try to push these down and push my hips forward to at least try to loosen this grip. We don't typically throw strikes back here like this, but we do sometimes throw the heel back here like this to come up between the legs, and the legs, hopefully that will draw the legs together. So whenever I feel that and I go here like this, if I can go here to draw the legs together, now her legs are more narrow. So now I want, at this point, to step out into a wider base. I want to fake to one side so it draws her attention this way, and then I can step behind her this way here. Now at this point, depending on what I feel like I can do and how proficient I am at this technique, which is a principle that we'll get into later, is that I want to get here, and if I can lift her up and throw her off into the water, then that's fantastic, right? Or from here, if she's still hanging on at this point, then we can roll through, where if I grab her wrist here like this, or if I grab across and I can drop this knee, we're gonna roll this way, which we're not gonna do because it's gonna hurt a lot on this kind of surface. But in training on mats, it's a really good technique that we can practice, and it's gonna be very effective if it's on a harder surface like that. Of course, that is gonna wind me up on the ground, so my ability to navigate the ground positions is crucial for that reason. So same thing though, from over the arms like this, I have to suck it in a little bit so she can get around me. So from here, the big thing, I want to make sure that I can get her arms a little higher. I can do that by making a shelf here and kind of wedging my elbows out a little bit. And then the same thing, I want to go here, I want to try to kick if I can, just for distraction. I want to step out into base rather than drop into base. I want to butt fake to one side, and then I'm going to turn and step in. And again, if I can pick up, because I can pick up a lot more weight than it looks like because I'm using my hips and I'm using the mechanical advantage, or I can just sit straight down. What that's going to look like, let go for just 1 second. I want to go here, and I'm going to do like a backward pistol squat and squat this way, dropping her back that way here. So again, both, there's a lot of similarities, a lot of overlaps in the approaches that we take. And I think that's a really cool thing to see, because to me that's a validation. That's kind of confirmation that these kind of principles and concepts and mechanical things will tend to work. So all that to say this, now talking about some other things that are kind of BS, that are kind of like really weak. If I just think that from here she's grabbing me, I can reach back and I can pinch her inner thigh like this.
Wait, what can you do?
If I can reach back like this, I can pinch her inner thigh.
No, pinch.
Pinch, I can pinch it.
Yeah.
and then she's gonna, out of pain, let go and then just like run away crying or something. I've seen this taught multiple times as something that will actually be effective and work. I have about 1% faith that's actually gonna work in a real situation. Again, 1%, because anything can work. Anything All right, so guys, I hope that this provides a little bit of an insight into a dialogue, a discussion about how constructive approaches to finding techniques and tactical approaches can work. And also how to dismiss things that maybe aren't the most practical or aren't the most useful. And not to be too open-minded, or too close-minded rather, whenever you're seeing something and just dismiss it because you don't think it works without even trying it or training it. So whenever we get together and she's got a little bit of a different background and paradigm that she comes from and I've got a different one, then we can have different kind of approaches and use this kind of critical lens to discuss and kind of formulate things, and then maybe help us and modify the things that we do in our training. So hopefully this helps you a little bit, at least toward your training in the future. If it doesn't help, I'm sorry to waste your time, but I appreciate you watching anyway. And I appreciate Anya being here with me in beautiful Alexandria, Virginia. And I love being out here and training with my friends at Capital MMA. And I absolutely appreciate the hell out of Musa Visual Media for doing all this beautiful video and editing work and taking us to these awesome locations. So thank you guys again for watching. I appreciate watching Night Jiu-Jitsu too. And yeah, thanks a lot.